Well, the conflict between Israel and Hamas is shining a spotlight now on accusations of anti-Semitism on college and university campuses nationwide. My next guest says some college and university diversity programs, which were designed to eliminate discrimination and hate, are actually fueling the fire. Dr. Tabia Lee is a former DEI Director at De Anza College. It's a public community college out in Cupertino, California. Dr. Lee, thanks for being with us. Talk to me about what you see as being behind a lot of the anti-Israel and anti-Jewish sentiment we're seeing on campuses.
Yes, thank you for having me on today. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a toxic ideology that's guiding a lot of the DEI programs on our American college campuses. This ideology is rooted in critical social justice instead of the classical social justice, which most of us are familiar with when we hear that term. But critical social justice really does look at putting people in identity boxes based on their race and gender. It sees people as victims or oppressors. It sees us as in a perpetual, struggle for power and privilege, and it focuses on oppression instead of, human agency and free will and all of those things that you would associate with classical social justice, like equality of opportunity. Instead, we see this focus on equality of outcomes in the critical social justice ideology. And in this rootedness, something I discovered as I worked at De Anza College with deeply entrenched anti-Semitism is that, there's this view of Jewish people as white oppressors, which is historically inaccurate and which is something that their twisted narrative needs to have in order to not focus in on authentic Jewish inclusion. And this is happening not just at De Anza College, but at so many colleges and universities, across the nation.
Jews have been accused over time of being white oppressors, of being minority oppressors. It sort of comes in fits and spurts the way that people like to discriminate against Jews, at least here in America. Take a listen to this, because this problem is sort of not in any one location. Here on the East Coast, Georgetown students have been speaking out about a distinct sense of anti-Semitism in their classrooms.
As soon as the terrorist attacks occurred, it became a hostile environment for Jewish students. People are scared to go to class. You have to sit next to classmates who are posting anti-Semitic rhetoric, who are promoting rallies that spew anti-Semitic rhetoric, and people are scared. And the universities are not doing their part, and they are not stepping up, and they are staying silent.
What is the appropriate thing for university administrators to do in the face of these anti-Israel protests?
The appropriate thing, and some can debate, whether it's appropriate for colleges to be engaging in these things or not. But if you take notice, when the war in Ukraine started, there were all of these solidarity statements that were issued by so many colleges and universities. But as the students just noted, so many are silent. They've been silent. They're silent as the over 200 hostages have been taken from their homes. Innocent civilians, babies, children, really just mothers, fathers, civilian people who were taken. Silence from these universities who tell us that, silence equals violence, right? That's one of the critical social justice slogans. But yet they're very silent. And in fact, they're doing the opposite. We're seeing these protests, and they're not protests, they're actually celebrations, celebrating the actions of a terrorist group, Hamas, and what's happening there in Israel. And it's so unfortunate to see that, and it's this toxic ideology.
Sorry to interrupt. We're coming against a hard break here. We've got to say goodbye to you, and thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight and expertise.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.